My name is Jo Dabrowski and I'm a children's author and illustrator from Melbourne, Australia. Have You Seen My Friend is my very first book. Here's how I made it. I work from home and I usually try to do all of my thinking while I'm sitting down with a notebook in my lap. That way I can immediately write down all the thoughts and images that pop into my head. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, my thoughts have very little to do with picture book ideas. That's when I know I need to get out of the house. Luckily, I live close to the water in Williamstown and I like to ride my bike or go for a walk to clear my head. This is when I often think of new ideas, although they're not always very good ones. But I can clearly remember that this is the exact spot I had the idea for Have You Seen My Friend. Most of my ideas take time and they grow very slowly. Yet for some reason, this one literally just popped, fully formed into my mind. My ideas for picture books are always very visual, so I put the words and the images down on the page simultaneously. I like the pictures to help tell the story. I don't want everything to be spelled out in the text. I want some of the humour or surprise to come from the illustrations. So when I write a story, the first thing I do is make a very rough stick figure storyboard. Once I think the idea is working well enough, I make a bit of a messy mock-up of the book. This way I can be sure that it's making sense and that I'm happy with all the page turns. After that, I draw everything up roughly on my iPad. I like using the iPad because I know at the next stage I'll become really indecisive and want to experiment with different endings and change the wording. So it saves me a lot of time because I can keep reusing the same pictures while I play around with the manuscript. In this case, I ended up making quite a few mock-ups of the book before I was happy with the final result. The first 2/3 of Have You Seen My Friend are intentionally repetitive, so those spreads came to me quite quickly. But crafting the ending took longer. When I now look at the final result, it seems so simple, but I remember it took a long time to get there. Once a firm press bought the manuscript for Have You Seen My Friend, I started working on the pictures. I definitely think of myself as a writer first and an illustrator second, and having never illustrated a book before, I questioned whether I could do it at all. If I'm totally honest, I don't actually enjoy drawing, but I have always absolutely loved making things from paper, and I feel happiest with a pair of scissors in my hand. So it felt natural to me to try working in paper collage. To begin with, I made some rough characters out of cheap craft paper so I could play around with what my hero bunny might look like. I always start by cutting out all the elements and getting them into a shape I'm satisfied with before I add any lines. I tried out a lot of different head shapes, ear lengths and even outfits before I was happy. I decided to make the backgrounds very simple. Because my bunnies appear in a few different scenarios, I wanted the focus to be on them and their activity rather than where they were actually doing it. And also, I think it helped make the transition from the rabbit's world into the magician's world more seamless. Colour is very important to me. I think it can really affect your mood, and in Have You Seen My Friend, I wanted to use it to communicate my hero rabbit's feelings. When it came to choosing the colours, I wanted each background colour to complement the action in the story, but I also wanted them to look good together, with the flaps and the page turns, so I made a tiny version of the book to help me get an idea of that. At the beginning, when our rabbit is pretty chilled and only mildly confused, I started with a pale lilac and then a pale blue. But as he gets more frustrated and even angrier with the situation, the colours increase in brightness to yellow and orange. When he finds a way to get his revenge, he's pleased with himself and mellows slightly, which is when it turns to pink, before flashing to red at the end when the magician meets his fate. Once I've made most of the elements, I start laying everything out. I might be confident with scissors, but I'm pretty nervous around a glue stick, so I leave the sticking down part until the last minute. In the case of Have You Seen My Friend, because the focus is almost always on the hero bunny, I knew I had to get his expression spot on. I think so much can be communicated with a subtle tilt of a head or the angle of an ear, so I can end up spending ages shifting things a millimetre at a time until I feel it's right. I also made lots of versions of facial expressions and was swapping some of them around until the very last minute. I have a whole collection of earless bunny heads that I'm sure will be worth absolutely nothing one day. Once all the illustrations were finished, we had them photographed. It's really important to me that the texture of the paper was obvious and that there's a sense of a slight 3D element to the images where the arms and legs have been bent to make elbows and knees, or where there are folds in the clothes. I really like the shadows that the raised paper leaves, and I wanted all of that to show up in the photographs. Once the photographs had been taken, the type was set and the cover was put together, the book was sent off for a test print. It was an absolute thrill to hold it for the first time and actually open it, lift the flaps and turn the pages. Now, I can't wait for people to buy it.